Hello and welcome to another episode of Panel on Panels, the podcast about all things comics and comics related. I'm your host, John Campbell. Joining me as always, Mike Gergoni.
Greetings.
And next to him, Mr. Donovan Eilert.
Hi, everybody.
All right, so guys, we just got back from Rose City Comic Con.
We literally walked in the door like 10 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm. And so we were at Rose City Comic Con.
It was great.
It was, yeah, absolutely. I've been several years before. You guys have not been before.
I've been to Rose City once before.
You went to Rose City once
and
before.
I've been to the Wizard World one that comes through here twice before.
Okay.
Surprisingly enough, this is my absolute first time.
Donovan, the first convention of any sort.
I am very much still alive.
Yeah, what is this like coming as a convention newbie?
Well, I don't know if I prefer that term, but it's.
What term would you like me to use?
I would
A
like
freshie?
Freshies?
freshie.
A conversion.
No, I just think
That sounds like an airplane.
Yeah, I would like to call him
Fly to London on the beautiful Conversion.
conversion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think there's a preferred term. I just. It was good. I really enjoyed the show. It's cool to see all the people from all sorts of fandoms represented.
Absolutely.
And booths and a lot more artists doing really, really cool work and selling prints. And
If I had enough money to just like buy one of everything,
it would happen.
Yeah.
unfortunately, then I'd be like, I don't have enough wall space.
I was going to say that's one of my biggest problems. Certainly, is with artwork and stuff. It's just like, where am I going to put this?
Yeah, but it was super cool.
Yeah.
Favorite quote of the con was overhearing somebody say, "I can't tell if this is hot dogs or BO that I'm smelling."
Yeah, that was
because
a great
there
one.
are a lot of people there.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the
There was
official
also
total
that
was.
there
was also a hot dog booth,
cooking
yeah.
hot dogs.
Sorry, I should-
Kielbasa.
That's true. I should have said that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
How dare you? They're saying.
Without saying
We don't make
that
hot
they were
dogs.
also making kielbasa,
Yeah.
that would have been a more awkward
Sure.
comment. Somebody just thinking they're smelling hot dogs.
Yeah.
And we almost got somebody tried to charge us $2.25 for a cup of hot water.
Those monstrous human beings.
And
Donovan and I were trying to make tea
Yep.
in the middle of a comic book convention
we
like
were
normal
taking
human
a
beings.
proper tea.
Yes.
You know, we were some British heritage somewhere, I'm sure.
I'm
Right.
sure somewhere in the dingy backwaters of my genetics.
And
Right.
so we wanted that. I had the tea with me. That's not uncommon.
Not for you, no.
Yep, that's right. I had enough for everybody, and they wouldn't charge us for the hot water, she said, but the
They charged us
smallest
for the
cup
cup.
was $2.25, which is how much a beverage of theirs cost. Which means that if I brought my own cup, I could get free beverages. However, I did have my own cup, and she said we can't take it because of food.
So we walked
Safety.
50 feet to
Portland Roasting.
Portland Roasting.
We are now repping because they're lovely human
Heroes
beings
of the
who gave
convention.
us free cups of hot water with a smile on their face.
And I got to drink tea.
Nothing.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
they found nothing strange about it at all.
No, they were like, yeah, absolutely.
They were perfectly pleasant
I
people
would
over
have,
there. At
50
Portland
cents for a cup or something. Great.
That- I would have
that's
expected
fine.
something like that.
But
yeah.
$2.25 for an 8-ounce portion of hot water
Makes no
and
sense.
A disposable cup. I want to keep that cup if I have to pay $2.25
And
for
quite
it.
francely, that is our biggest gripe about Comic-Con, which I think it says something
Yeah.
about Rose City.
They do a good job at Rose City. They really do. It's a fun environment. It's a very positive environment, encouraging of particularly comic books, which I think is nice.
Yes.
In the ever disappearing comic book representation at comic conventions.
What I found pretty hilarious was the representations of movies and TV shows for the most part, other than, the actual stars of TV shows that were there.
Yeah, which we'll talk about a little bit.
Sure.
But the biggest representations I saw of most of the movies and stuff that they were repping was cardboard cutouts.
Yeah.
Lots of stand-ups of just and don't forget Arrow and Flash are coming back, and oh yeah, there's a Peter Pan movie coming out, and
Yeah, that's right.
just weird, they don't actually have a booth. It's just a cardboard cutout that's set up, and it's
It's
oh,
not worth their
okay.
time. They're not going to get enough traction here. Yeah.
Sure, I guess.
That's the thing. But we'll send something. We'll send some promotional material.
We'll send them a piece of cardboard.
That's always the way it is here.
There was a pretty awesome MODOK. Do you know what they were?
They were representing the advanced idea mechanics.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was
Mostly, yeah.
AIM. Yeah, apparently AIM is recruiting or
Yeah,
something.
That's what it felt like.
They're heavily recruiting.
Yeah, MODOK was there though, which for those who don't know, come on, or lest we forget, he is a mechanized organism designed only for killing.
I mean, what else would he be designed for?
I don't know,
Being
but
a
that's it.
giant floating head.
That's it. He can't do anything else. He's designed only
for killing.
for killing. Donovan, you got a chance. We both did, but got a chance to meet some celebrities.
Yeah, we got you more than me, but
you and I both got to talk to
Brandon
Routh. Which I gotta say, we walk up to him, you shake his hand, you look inside, and you're like, "That's Superman."
That's what I mean. He feels heroic. I mean, that's what it is.
He's got a heroic
I'm 6'2".
vibe.
Take that, Henry Cavill.
He's a big guy.
I'm 6'2". He's supposedly 6'3", but apparently that 1 inch is all you need. Because I do not look like Superman. Nobody looks at me. I mean, he does have about 40 inches on the chest as well.
I was gonna say, I think he's got some shoulders
like
to him and some arms.
He was somebody I didn't talk to. So Brandon Routh was standing up. He shook our hand. We talked for like 3 minutes. He perked up when we were talking about Superman. I think
our positive review of his portrayal.
I think he was
Superman.
really proud of that. The one person though that I saw that I didn't get in this line for because I was waiting in line for somebody else, but is it Lawrence?
Lawrence Gilliard Jr.
He was on the other side of the table. He hugged everybody that came through and was insisting on talking to everybody.
He is going to be so sick at the end of this
multiple lengths of time.
I really wish I had gone over there. I didn't know. That's awesome.
He had 3 people in line at any given time that I saw, and he was just the nicest person I could tell. He was in like a stocking cap and a T-shirt, and he just wanted to hang out with people and talk about what they wanted to talk about.
Because I mean,
he held people's babies. I saw him hold somebody's baby at the convention.
That's awesome.
Whose baby was that?
It was not.
Unclear.
I don't know. It wasn't my baby.
That you know of.
0 babies.
That you know of.
That I know. Yes.
Lawrence Gilliard played Bob on The Walking Dead.
Yep.
But a lot of people will probably know him, as I do, as D'Angelo Barksdale from The Wire.
Yeah.
Which one of the best shows ever on television.
I've never seen it.
So I'm aware you haven't seen it. We're gonna try to fix that.
We're fixing that. But I also met Brett Dalton and Elizabeth Henstridge from.
This was the story I wanted you to tell.
From Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and both really great.
They seemed super nice.
They were really.
I didn't get to talk to them, but you did. Yeah, they seemed
really sweet. Elizabeth Henstridge liked my Captain America shirt. Shout out
it
to
is
my
an awesome
sister
Captain America.
Samara for getting that to me. Shout out to Bridget. Yes, it is a cool shirt.
But Bridget plays a key role in a story that I'm sure the listeners of our show will enjoy.
Yes, I was talking to Brett Dalton and just saying like, "Thank you, you're awesome. We don't know what's happening with your character because you're going all over the place and
going full supervillain."
Yeah, exactly. I didn't call him Trader McBeardyface.
Good call.
But I thought about it. Anyways,
was he clean shaven or was he rocking the beard?
He had the beard. He had a fair amount of scruff there.
Well,
they're
filming.
He also,
but he was clean shaven by the end of the second
was
season.
He?
Was he? Yeah.
I don't remember.
I thought he still had the beard.
No, I don't think so.
Either way, he just was
There's
rocking
that dramatic moment where it's like full on Terminator in the mirror, shaving himself. Going,
maybe, yeah.
Now I am evil.
I don't remember that. Well, I need to watch that again. I'm rewatching it slowly for the new season coming out. But I was talking to him and I said, just as a joke, I mean this happened, but just kind of being silly, that I got a little disconcerting text from Bridget when she was watching the finale without me.
You told this story on the show,
yeah,
right?
and texted me, "Why don't you love me like Ward loves Kara?" And he kind of laughed at that, and I said, "Don't worry, she's just being dramatic." Sent a lot of emojis and things like that, and he whipped out a postcard and wrote a note for Bridget, which she doesn't know yet, and she's not listening to this, so this will be a surprise.
She definitely doesn't listen to this show.
But she, he wrote
For sure.
He wrote her a note, and he's like, basically like, Bridget, Donovan loves you as much as Ward loves Kara.
I love it.
Not
Grant
more
Ward.
than
Grant
as
Ward.
much.
Yeah, as much as Grant Ward.
Yeah,
loves
exactly.
Kara.
And then signed it. And I mean, if people don't know about celebrities at these events, but usually you pay for a signature, and I did not pay for that. And he just was so happy to give that to me. And he's like, "Hopefully, this will clear things up."
That's one of the coolest. That's one of the coolest interactions.
Cool.
I've
And I
ever
wasn't. I mean, I didn't tell that asking for that or anything. He
Right.
was just really sweet, really nice guy.
He seems like a really
loves
cool guy.
puns.
Brett Dalton is a meister of puns.
Yeah,
You can follow him on Twitter and
Follow
enjoy
him
a lot
as
of his
he
fun.
live tweets the episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It is edging on painful amount of puns.
which is the only amount of puns that I accept. So that was really cool. And again, as a first time goer to a convention like this, it was really cool to see these people as people, which I know is really strange, but it's something we even like the comics creators that we've never been able to talk to. Reading their work and just being so invested in it and moved by it, and then meeting them, and you're like, "Wow, you are just like a normal."
They're all
cool
for the most part,
person.
all the comic book people were pretty down to earth.
Nothing to
friendly.
complain about.
I mean, there was that one guy who was hovering, but after a while, he really kind of settled down.
Yes,
Yes.
down to earth. I understand what you did. Oh boy.
No, but it was
once
really
again, we
cool
may have to
meet
look about
everybody.
whether or not Gorgoni continues to be on the show.
I think that's always in question. Yeah.
It's constantly. I mean,
Between my hatred of Superman.
you're on an episode by episode contract as far as I'm
no.
The
concerned.
thing is, though, is if you replace Gorgoni with Brett Dalton, I don't know how long you'd last. Because John, you do not like puns very much.
I don't.
But you like Brett Dalton quite a
I
bit.
do like
so
Brett Dalton
I wonder
quite a
how
bit.
that would.
I don't know. I'd
what
be
would
really
even out.
torn. I'd be
Yeah,
really
I
torn.
don't pun nearly that much.
Bridget wouldn't be able to handle it if we had Brett Dalton as a co-host. I
No,
don't think.
and she also loves puns, so that would just
there
be.
you go. Yeah,
That would be.
we'd have all kinds of trouble.
Yes, that's true.
Um,
He was surprised to hear that she's also still on Team Ward after
Yeah,
burning his family and
Yeah.
giving him the benefit of the doubt. And he was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I basically did that on the show."
yeah,
So,
the bridge is just crazy. I think is what it comes down to, doesn't
well,
it?
it's slowly being revealed.
Yeah. Once again, she does not listen to this, so.
So it's fine if we insult her.
No, she's great.
Did you guys see any awesome cosplay? There were tons of people were cosplaying.
I mean,
obviously,
there were so many.
Yeah.
There was Deadpools of all shapes and sizes. all over
I
the
saw an
convention.
Assassin's
And
Creed
genders.
Deadpool.
Assassin's Creed Deadpool. I saw one of the guys who, with AIM around MODOK, lifted up the helmet. There was a Deadpool mask underneath.
There you go.
There was a Victorian, like steampunk Deadpool
Yeah.
who was around with a steampunk Spider-Man as well.
I watched a 4-year-old Hulk beat up 2 Deadpool. That was pretty cool in the middle of the.
A lot of
the floor.
Deadpools just in general. Let's see. We saw Belly Dancer Harley Quinn.
That was pretty cool. That was a
That
cool
was-
There was a
crossover.
fantastic Lady Thor that I saw.
Yeah, I think I saw her as well.
There's
Yeah.
a Lady Thor and Jane Cobb, and I don't think that the connection of both being named Jane was made. But they were walking side by side, and I wanted to stop them and be like, "You're both Jane!" Ah!
We saw an incredible Ant-Man. I mean, like almost,
Oh, yeah.
almost
It
like a
was so
screen
spot on.
accurate
and
Ant-Man.
an amazing Iron Man as well with the,
Yeah.
the visor,
an
on the
actual
face would go
mechanized
up
helmet
and
that
down.
went.
It was-
And just today we saw
Very
like basically a large chunk of the cast of the X-Men animated series.
Yeah, we
Yes.
did absolutely.
That was a whole group thing that was
yeah,
going on. That was
Gambit
pretty
and
impressive.
Rogue and
yeah.
Frost. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we saw there was. I mean,
Cyclops.
as to be expected, stormtroopers, Starfleet officers.
The 501st was out in force this year. Not only the 501st, but also the R2D2 like builders.
that was the
community.
coolest
Yeah.
thing ever. I was able to get in.
You were quite taken with the R2D2s.
Well, I was. This is another story. I'm sorry if this turns into like Donovan's first con. A baby's first con is
I
the
think it's amazing because you
just gave us the title of the episode,
baby's
right?
first con.
It's very easy to go into these types of situations and find like several experiences that might sour you to the whole idea of conventions as a whole.
Sure.
And the fact that you've had such positive experiences right out of the gate
Sure.
is good.
I'm tired. I'm a little underhydrated, but it was awesome. We were there. You'll notice that there's an interview in the middle of this episode.
Yeah, that's-
that we were able to get.
You know, so many people have clicked on this and are like, "What? Get to it
Yeah,
already!"
exactly.
God.
We'll get there. Don't worry. Somebody in comments will post what time that actually starts, and they'll just
Yeah.
skip to that, which is fine.
That's
but
all
we
Don't
we
mix
got
my amazing hovering joke.
yeah. Come on, everybody. We'll put it in the middle of the episode. We'll just drop it in there. A brief intermission in our interview. But we were able to get passes for the show, which is wonderful. Thank you, Rose City, for
giving us the
for
media
giving-
passes for the show.
for
Yeah,
the show. That's incredible. Super honored about that, and just
absolutely.
loved being there. But when I went to pick up the badges, people were setting stuff up, and I had never been to one before. So I just asked one of the security guards, "Can I walk around?" And he's
Yeah.
like, "If you've got a badge, go in. That's super cool." So I was walking around, and I came around a corner, and unbeknownst to me, there were like 7 full-size working R2D2s, all beeping and booping at me,
Beeping,
and
beeping and booping.
I lost my mind. I legitimately, I could not stop from grinning. I was like,
Did they have the Jawa set up yet? Because I
Giggling,
walked past there later.
they had Jawas as well, and I was just like, this is something that I've never seen realized in this kind of way.
Right. I
You
mean,
know?
I mean, I've seen them at the they're there every year. They're really cool. Yeah.
I was just
and then
like,
the thing
that's
that impressed me
amazing.
this year,
It was
because
over
I
a
have never
Dalek.
seen that, was a Dalek. There was
Yeah.
a full size Dalek rolling
There
around.
were a couple of Daleks actually.
I didn't
there
see-
Was
I only
there
saw
was a
one.
full size one that was rolling around, and he was actually the same one I saw a couple weeks earlier at PAX. But there was also a kid in a Dalek costume that looked actually really fantastic, and he was just like motoring around inside of there.
Very
I
cool.
almost wish, though, that Dalek would pop open and be Davros on the inside. That would have been so cool.
That would be really awesome.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, I think we had a good time at the con.
Yeah, there's some.
Did you guys see that like 7-foot tall Wookiee?
Absolutely,
That guy
yeah.
had to be on stilts, yeah?
Oh yeah.
That was the guy who walked out of the bathroom and was combing himself, and I just watched this Wookiee just like
Did he have to like?
primping, which we know Wookiees don't do.
Oh, Wookiees do that.
No, they don't.
They
don't
so
bathe.
do. Oh, they do.
No, they
Wookiees
don't.
are very particular about their hygiene.
You're kidding.
I am not.
Well, this is a different podcast.
I could get into all sorts of odd factoids about Wookiees. I won't,
There was
but I could.
Spock
Please
Vegas
don't.
was there.
Spock Vegas was there.
Right?
Yes.
The professional Spock in
Impersonator.
Yeah.
Vegas, yes.
He
Yeah.
looks good. He looks
There's
like
some really
Spock.
cool. Oh, we saw a Miss Marvel that was really cool too. The Kamala Khan.
There
Miss
were a
Marvel.
couple of those actually.
Couple
It
of
was-
yeah,
those
Spider
Marvels,
Gwens.
some cool Spider Gwen, some Captain
I
Marvels.
saw a Gwenpool actually.
Spider Gwen Deadpool crossover.
Well, what it is like they've kind of taken the idea of that Gwen Stacy aesthetic and started like a lot of fan art has started applying it to like a bunch of characters, and one that started cropping up in cosplay in the last couple of months has been Gwenpool, which is like if Gwen Stacy had become Deadpool,
Right.
and it's now becoming a thing in the comics. Is they're introducing some like Taylor stories, like those 2 or 3 page like mini stories they have at the end of books. That's going to be like a little mini arc for Gwenpool, which I think is really cool. That grew out of the fan community.
Cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
We
That's really awesome.
I saw an Osborne Industries Gwen Stacy. That's pretty cool. You know,
Nice.
the lab coat and everything.
Very cool.
But I think one of the ones that I just kept thinking like, wow, that's super cool. It was a gender bent Luke on Dagobah. He had the TIE Fighter orange jumpsuit. It was tied around her waist, you know, like halfway up, and she's wearing a wife beater and then had a Yoda on her back.
Nice.
And then she had her hair kind of in Princess Leia buns. Almost, I mean, it was just kind of the like Skywalker-y braid up around her head. It was cool. I just saw
Yeah.
that and I was like, man, that's just really well.
You joked
Thought
about. I mean, we talked. Did we talk about Poison Ivy earlier? Because I saw there were a number of Poison Ivies.
There were several.
Number of Poison Ivy, Black Widow.
Poison Ivy, Black Widow, Harley Quinn.
These seem to be
Very
the popular
heavily
female.
represented.
Yeah, there were a couple
choices.
of really good like Captain Marvels that I saw.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there were some cool ones of those.
Carol Danvers.
I saw a guy with a similar to the Ant-Man, a very screen accurate Age of Ultron, specifically Captain America costume.
Yes, with the shield. The shield was the
The shield was awesome, but he had the Avengers A on the arms and stuff.
Cool.
And, yeah, so man, way to go, nerd community.
That's really cool.
really-
Cosplay is always one of the I think most fun things about these conventions.
It's something I love yet don't want to participate in at all. I have no interest in cosplaying, but I love seeing people in cosplay.
If any
And when it's done, it's particularly when
good
it's done
character
well.
fit my body type, I would be all over it.
We've talked about this. Beast.
Yes, I think I. Could pull off a pretty
we've
decent
talked
Beast.
about what the triad would be.
Yeah, and maybe next year's Rose City Comic Con
We don't want to spoil,
take
but
a
we
shot.
might be some early X-Men kind of design
Yeah.
here. I also love that.
I'd rock Professor X so I could just roll around the
There you
thing
go.
without
Shave
having to
your
walk.
head?
Yeah.
Fair
If
enough.
it means not having to walk at the con, I'll do whatever.
Wow, that's
Pretend you're in a wheelchair.
the
Yeah.
whole time. The cool thing is with all these people in costume is like we went to Burgerville at one point and I'm sitting next to one of the rescue rangers and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is cool. And looking over and there's a Miss Marvel.
bunch
and
of
I mean,
Ninja
there's, like,
Turtles walk up to get their
Turtles.
burger.
There was a really
Yeah.
sweet Doctor Doom at the
Yeah.
Burgerville.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
kind of awesome.
And you're just like, this is really, the whole, few blocks surrounding the area is like you can't run away from.
Right, no.
there was
it's-
quite a few Dooms now that I think about it.
Huh?
Doom was a popular one this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, saw a lot of Jokers, of course.
Of course.
And we saw a really cool Lady Joker at
We saw
the,
an awesome
at the Lady
looking
Killer panel that we
Lady
went to.
Joker. Yeah, we
That
saw a
was
really,
really well
good
done.
Lady Joker.
Man, people who want to wear face and body makeup like that, like go for it.
More
It
power to 'em.
sounds exhausting.
I'm
Yeah.
glad the air conditioning in the convention center is as good as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think now we had a good time at the con, but one of the most exciting things, maybe the most exciting thing, was
It's up there.
we got an interview that we're about to play for you. I'm sure once again this is why you've clicked on this and download this. We were able to sit down with Tim Sale.
It's still kind of blowing my mind even after the fact.
Comic book legend Tim Sale. People know him. We've talked about him on the show many times for the Batman Long Halloween, Dark Victory, the now
colors.
Quartet now.
Well, starting Quartet, Spider-Man White, or Spider-Man White. I'm
Spider-Man
about to
Blue.
fall over.
Hulk Gray.
Yeah.
Daredevil Yellow.
And Captain America White.
Which
is what I meant to say.
in our interview we'll talk to him about Captain America White a bit and talk about sort of how this came to be and why it has taken so long to get that out. We also talk very in depth about his Batman comics.
Let the interview speak for itself, John.
Yeah, I'm just previewing it a bit and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, we had a great time talking to him. He talked to we talked to us for about a half hour. So so the next kind of.
Oh, I was just going to say we are on the convention floor off into this.
I will
podcasting area,
warn viewers. There's a couple of rough audio spots due to the fact that we were really like in the middle of the convention on the floor, just sitting at a
I will
couch.
say those couches they set us up on were super comfortable.
Yeah,
They were.
absolutely.
I didn't want to get up.
So just to let you know, there's a couple of cracks and stuff in there. It's not too bad. It's mostly in kind of the first third of the interview, and then it evens out. But you'll certainly hear people walking by and stuff like that. But yeah, so this is we'll throw to it now. We'll throw to ourselves in the past. This is for the next half hour or so, it'll be us on the floor at Rose City Comic Con talking to Tim Sale. All right, so we're sitting here at Rose City Comic Con with Tim Sale. Tim, thanks for being
my
on.
God.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Incredible.
You're as shocked as we are.
I know, it's amazing. Tim it seems to be quite starstruck by us, which is incredible.
It's mutual, would you say?
Well, the hat.
Yeah.
The hat. Yeah, the hat.
I do rock a fancy bowler, I will say that. For those of you who have seen me at cons, I tend to stroll about hat akimbo.
More Hamburg than Bowler.
Fair enough. I don't know my hats as well as you do, apparently.
Everybody calls everything a fedora nowadays.
Yeah,
I know
that's
enough
true.
not to call it that.
It is not.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah. Man who knows his hats.
Yep.
So thanks for coming on, Tim.
Thank you.
So we're a comic book podcast, so we're very much obsessed with people's origin
Wait,
stories.
we're a what now?
Yeah, we're a comic book podcast.
Oh.
So we love people's origin stories. So one of the questions we always ask our guests is, what was sort of the first comic that really clicked you into the medium? Like, do you have a distinct memory of like a comic book where you're just like,
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of inched my way in until I got fully into it.
Okay.
I got fully into it when I was about 13.
Yeah.
But I really remember loving Archie comics.
Oh, wow.
And there was a store within walking distance from where I lived, a drugstore that had a spinner rack.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting there with my friends going, I got to go get some comics.
Yeah.
And that was Archie.
Wow.
That was the first time I remembered that.
Wow.
You know, I'm sure Dan DiCarlo was doing a lot of the art then, so everybody's got a Betty and Veronica in
Yeah.
them.
Right.
But it was, I think maybe some of my friends in the neighborhood had known more about Steranko. This is when it was Strange Tales, the Shield.
Right.
And introduced me to that. But the first book I really remember loving was Romita's Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Again, the pretty girls.
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Oh, I mean, Romita's.
But I loved the
girls,
villains and
Oh, sure.
stuff like that. And it became clear to me very soon that I was drawn to Marvel a lot more than DC.
Thus supporting my theory
What was your theory?
that Marvel is better than DC.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
We get that every once in a while.
at this time, this is the late 60s,
Yeah.
it was really true.
Yeah.
They were putting out 12 books a month.
Mm-hmm.
Stan was writing all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, which is why he had to work with people like Kirby and Ditko and Romita,
Yeah.
Sure.
who could also tell stories. And they were very much a treehouse club kind of feel. And they had just these amazing artists that DC did not have.
Right. So even as a kid, were you drawn primarily to the art?
Yeah.
So and
And sort of characters and stuff, but always
Sure.
the art was what.
yeah. And were you drawing at this time yourself? Sort of.
Well, I always kind of drew, but
Mhm.
I got more into, like a lot of kids would do. I would trace and
Sure.
copy muscles and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I would carry a sketchbook around with me all through high school.
Yeah.
It's awful stuff. I still have some of it. But,
Oh, yeah?
but, you know, I was doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely Marvel. I remember when Conan came in, I went and read all the Howard books
Right.
in preparation for when Conan was going to come to comics, and so that was in the early '70s, and I kind of fell out of it a little bit. Then I went to when I was 20, I went to New York. I went to the John Buscema School, the workshop
Oh, wow.
he had, and it'd be once a week, and he would sort of teach anatomy for a month. And then Ramita Sr. taught inking
Oh, man.
and storytelling for a month. And then Marie Severin taught covers. And
So you were really learning from the greats then.
yeah.
That's amazing.
But I hated New York.
Oh, okay.
From Seattle.
Sure.
It was really different.
A bit different there.
It was, yeah. And this is 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was pretty slimy there.
Right. Oh, yeah. 70s New York. Yeah.
And I came back thinking I could never figure out how to tell a story. Because that was the thing they really wanted to hit you on. I knew I could draw.
Right.
I'd already been to the University of Washington for art classes. And I knew I could draw, but telling a story in panels
Yeah.
seemed like a whole bunch of rules that I would never get.
Right.
And so I came back kind of depressed about it. I did fantasy illustration for a while. And I was almost 30 before I got my first comic book work.
What was the first?
Just inking
Inking.
Phil Folio
Okay.
on a book called Myth Adventures.
Myth Adventures.
Oh, I love that series. Phil Folio, who went on to draw and create Girl Genius, that webcomic I'm always talking about.
And a lot of pornography and stuff.
He also did some of that.
It's a very odd human being. But that led to Thieves' World, in which I penciled, inked, and lettered. It was a black and white magazine-sized book.
Okay.
And then I realized I'd never done a superhero. I didn't know what I was going to do when that ended. So I got some advice to go to San Diego, and I met Matt Wagner, Diana Schutz.
Yeah.
Bob
Always
Schreck.
with Diana Schutz.
There it is. Every
That,
guest we've had on the show has brought up Diana Schutz. There's sort of connecting. She's like this connective tissue
Yeah, well,
of all of
they
our
were
guests.
they were all working at Kamiko at that point. And they're obviously all friends. Matt married Barb's sister, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, there's some connections there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Bob and Diana were married.
Right.
So anyway, that really helped me get into a lot of it, and I started working with Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met Jeff. I was put together by an editor.
Okay.
Is that how that
Jeff.
came about? It wasn't something a little bit more organic. It was just kind
Well,
of
he had an agreement already with DC to do. He was a screenwriter and producer,
Right.
and Jeanette Kahn, who was the head of DC at the time, wanted to have some of that connection going on well before it ever really happened. And Jeff was kind of hired to be part of that. Jeff had grown up with comics just like me.
Yeah.
We're about the same age. Really different people, but had a lot of connections creatively. And so, Jeff knew nothing about it, hadn't been taught how to do a lot of it.
Yeah.
And he just sort of went in and said, "Great, I'd love to write Superman." He said, "Well, you're not going to be writing Superman."
Yeah.
And we went down a whole list, and we ended up with Challenges of the Unknown. And neither Jeff or I had ever heard of them.
I was going to say that had to be pretty far down that list, probably.
Well, we didn't know until after we'd done it. We didn't know that it was a Kirby creation or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so we were just throwing a lot of the shit at the wall and hoping some of it would stick.
Yeah.
It's a lot of weird stuff we were doing in it.
Oh, sure. Well,
I think it stuck.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the reason I know Challenges of the Unknown is because of your and Jeff's works. With that, yeah.
Backtracking,
Yeah.
from other
There's
works.
some great Kirby
yeah,
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You should check it out.
I will
Absolutely.
check it out, absolutely. So did that click instantly, sort of you and Jeff's relationship?
No, not instantly.
Okay.
He really wanted it to work. and he schmoozed a lot. He's from Connecticut, but he's a Hollywood-y guy.
Sure.
And once we started talking, we found out how many connections we had to comics and to movies and kind of shortcuts that we eventually could take. For years we worked, he would kind of take a credit card and put rectangles on a page and make notes and then call me on the phone.
Wow.
And we'd talk our way through a book.
Yeah.
And we did that all the way through the first Halloween special.
Oh, cool.
And eventually he ended up writing a full script for me.
Now I'm just going to be looking for credit card sized panels and
the whole page.
wow.
Yeah. That would be a page, and he'd just write notes on it and stuff.
Oh, wow.
So,
Cool. And so I go. Well,
we went from 4 or 5 hour conversations to something a lot shorter.
Yeah, and so you went from Challengers of the Unknown to the Batman Halloween specials?
I did a story called Blades with James Robinson in Legends of the Dark Knight, and Jeff was instantly jealous.
Okay.
And this is at a point where they had a rule in Legends. Archie Goodwin was the editor, that he wasn't going to repeat creative teams or anything. And I was the first guy he was going to say, let's do that. And it was actually Archie's idea to take all 3 issues, put them together in a special. And so we did 3 of those.
Right.
One a year, and I had to do other stuff in between.
Sure.
Like that. I did Deathblow during the hiatus on one of them.
Yeah.
And you could really tell at how big I made Batman in one of the issues. It's just ridiculous. Tiny little heads. And giant bodies.
Sure, yeah.
You kind of lose perspective in your mind and your eye.
Yeah.
So I thought it looked fine.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then at what point from doing those did you lead into Long Halloween? Did that come up? Was that your guys' idea to do that?
It was my idea to do a long-form mystery.
Oh, yeah.
And have it be from Halloween to Halloween. And Jeff was kind of worried. He always thought of himself more as a character and a dialogue guy than a plot guy. And the worst thing that could happen would be that somebody would guess the villain
Right.
3 issues in.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But it all worked out fine.
Oh.
No, it's...
Oh, yeah. I mean,
So,
we have done nothing but rave about that comic on this
Turns out it was
podcast.
Clayface the whole time.
Is that what...
Turns out what?
It was Clayface the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could always be Clayface. I mean, that's the beauty of that character. And then finishing Long Halloween, was there... I mean, how quickly did you guys think about Dark Victory then?
Well, we did Superman for All Seasons in between.
That's right, yeah. Which, another one of my favorite
So he finally got to write Superman, which is who he wanted to do. Was that a big conversation?
Jeff wanted
yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it.
You didn't want
Oh.
to do Superman.
No.
What convinced you to do Superman?
Well, do you know Paul Chadwick,
Yeah.
Concrete?
Yeah, absolutely.
He did a short story in a DC Christmas special that got the tone just right, it seemed to me. And Jeff thought so too, which was a combination of powers and being a sensitive
Sure.
Right.
human being, sort
Yeah.
of, as an alien.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know,
and
being a
not
person.
boring.
Yeah.
So there are different ways of people always, and I always thought myself, the boringness was because he was invulnerable and he could do anything.
Yeah.
Well, if you just tell different kinds of stories, that all of that changes. And I also was beginning to, because of trying to figure out what kind of Americana I wanted to do, I looked at a lot of Rockwell, and I
Yeah.
fell in love with that. And that was a big influence on me, especially for the first, well, everything in Kansas.
Right, right.
So the first issue especially.
Oh, that definitely comes through in the work for sure.
And I think I got a lot better as an artist, even though it was a very different style.
Apparently, someone just got married.
We're talking about Superman.
And then when I came back to Dark Victory, I was working closely with Mark Chiarello, who was our editor.
Yeah.
and I didn't know him before, but Archie had passed away, and we kind of knew what. We had a real self-confidence about we know what we're going to do. So we needed somebody to make the trains run on time and stay out of our way.
Right.
Which is kind of a bold thing to say. But, so we were looking for somebody, and Mark said, I'm not an editor. And we said, perfect.
We need the not editor.
You're hired.
And he said, great, as long as you guys turn the book in.
Yeah.
But it turned out Mark and I became really good friends, and he knew a lot more about American illustration than I did. So he really educated me with a lot of stuff, and a lot of that fed into Dark Victory. I think it's a lot better than Long Halloween.
You did, yeah. Cool.
Certainly my part in it.
Yeah.
But I think Jeff wrote it better, too. It just wasn't brand new.
Right.
But I think it's a much better story. And again, he had to try to convince me to put Robin in it. I hate Robin. I hate sidekicks. I don't like Bucky.
In Captain America White.
America, yeah.
Wow. So what did finally convince you then about putting Robin in it?
I wrote an introduction to the collection.
Yeah.
And it spoke of my girlfriend at the time. When I met her, she had an 8-year-old boy. When we split, he was 13. But he was a little punk.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time dealing with him. And I'm happy to say he's kind of a big punk now. He's grown up in a
He's a full-size
very
punk.
nice way. Well, a very nice way. He's a smart kid.
Yeah.
But it was really tough for me, and Jeff wrote that. He wrote their relationship as
absolutely.
me and Trevor, and also the connection that I had never made, and seems perfectly obvious, but that they were both orphaned by criminals.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was a connection.
Oh, for sure.
And so...
No, I mean that's my favorite Robin story is Dark Victory.
It's Dark Victory,
I think you guys really tapped into why that character, how you can make the character work.
Silent sequences, and he promised me that the first 5 pages of the Robin death, or the death of the flying Graysons, was going to be silent.
Yeah.
And he promised me that before, and then
one of my favorite series of panels in almost any book ever is your depiction of Alfred standing behind like Robin, watching both the Robin in the present and the Bruce in the past, and seeing Alfred's reaction to that, and seeing that maybe it's his fault. Just like the looks on his face as we're seeing this play out in both the past and the present is so affecting.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's the kind of thing that, I mean, Jeff didn't do that in Long Halloween.
No, certainly not.
He took a lot more storytelling things. He'd seen that I could do ink wash, so there were, a lot of the flashbacks were in ink wash. Things like that. So we played around with a lot more stuff. But the whole sequence at the circus where his family dies is just...
Oh, it's amazing.
It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. It's absolutely amazing.
Something that we really touched on, because we did an episode on the Long Halloween and Dark Victory for the podcast.
Okay.
And something we touched on is when people are in costume, they're much more, for lack of a better term, grotesque. You know, they're these more cartoonish, they're the more exaggerated, than Bruce and Selina outside of their costumes are much more well-adjusted humans. Was that something that you had?
Well, Bruce is never well-adjusted.
Okay, it's true. He appears to be a well-adjusted human. I guess same with Selina. She's never well-adjusted. But was that something that you had conversations with, or was that just a decision that you had made?
No, that's me.
That's just completely...
It's just the way I do things.
Yeah.
I like... I intentionally have, and I have fun doing it, exaggerating for effect.
Yeah.
So it's kind of expressionistic.
Sure.
Yeah, like you're drawing to the Joker. I've always loved with like he's all teeth. Yeah.
But you know, when he's not the Joker, he looks like a normal guy. No,
We've never seen that comic.
But I love all the Two-Face stuff.
Oh yeah.
With Janice Porter and Porter's relation with Jim Gordon.
Yes.
I like all that too.
Yeah.
There's some shit that we snuck in there that I couldn't believe we got away with.
Oh, yeah?
There's a
What's
scene. It's just sexual innuendo.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's raining. The rain has stopped. Janice is meeting. Turns out Two-Face, but we don't see who she's meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
He grabs her, and they're behind a pillar. And she says to him, "You're all wet." Now I'm all wet too. I couldn't believe we got away with it.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I know.
I mean, in the modern day, we read that and go, yeah, I mean, we come at it with a blasé attitude because we're so, let's admit it, desensitized a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm sure at the time it was just like, how did we do this?
Right.
Well, there's two scenes where, damn it, the daughter of the Roman ends up in a wheelchair.
Yes.
Completely blank on her name, but we know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
At Christmas, the Christmas issue, Pino and the other mook
Right.
come and they're talking to her in her office, and they're asking for a present or something like that. She pulls out a gun and shoots him in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And he says, "You shot me, you bitch." And I didn't think we'd get that in there.
Yeah.
And that was critical to the...
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Did you get any pushback
You
on
asked
that?
for a present, I gave you a present.
Yeah.
Did you get any pushback on that or anything?
Did we what?
Did you get any pushback on the "you shot me,
No.
you bitch"?
Well, it was Mark, and I don't. But I don't know. Mark is not a... He could be the biggest fan, but he wouldn't really want to walk upstairs and say, fight for something. Archie was really good at that.
Yeah.
And Archie also had a huge long history in comics. He was
Sure. Oh,
really
yeah.
well respected. So
Yeah.
if he fought for you,
Absolutely.
usually you get away with it.
Sure.
But Mark wasn't really that sort of person.
Yeah.
But
You got it in.
That's great.
So, and then obviously now you're doing Captain America White,
right,
which has been sort of a long time coming.
yep. Only 7 years. Come on.
Only 7 years.
I picked up the first issue and it's signed by you in 2008. It was like, that's
7 years ago.
It was a very but it's just a very real, like passing of time.
Well, we took out the signatures. No, not signatures, but the dates.
Yeah.
In the subsequent issues.
Oh, really?
Just because
Yeah.
there's no reason to remind people of that.
The first one was enough.
Well, there were a number of long breaks in between. Jeff was going through some stuff. I was going through some stuff.
Yeah.
But issues 3, 4, and 5 all happened pretty quickly all together. And they're the best issues in the group, I think.
Yeah.
They really hold up.
So how realized was that from the beginning? Like, did you guys have a pretty clear image of what Captain America White would be at the start, and then did that change over all these years?
I ended up having the feeling that Jeff didn't really know what he was doing.
Sure.
He had
Now we're going to get an angry email from Jeff
He didn't
Loeb.
have an ending.
Yeah.
I don't think. And you think of it, I mean, there were no movies
Sure.
when we
Right.
began.
Exactly.
And I remember Jeff saying to me, these dummies can't figure out what to do. We started in World War II. And, of course, they did start in World War II.
Absolutely.
But that's what we did. This all takes place in 1941 in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
There are a lot of characters, which I do not enjoy.
Right.
I don't like crowd scenes.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know? And so thank you for that, Jeff. And there wasn't enough of Paris. I wanted to draw a lot more of Paris. There wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a great city. It's very photogenic. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very iconic.
But there was also an awful lot of fun in it. There are a couple of brand new characters that he brings in. He did his best to write the Howlers like 1965 Stan Lee would write the Howlers.
Awesome.
He did okay on it. He wasn't quite as... You could see him straining at it a little bit. But,
Well, that's something
but some of the other new characters that we wrote really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had talked about at the beginning of this interview wanting to really work with Marvel and not getting there for a while. So obviously this is one of your, not fourth, but I mean it's up there
Of the color books?
of the fourth color books. But also you've done other Marvel work before, haven't you? You've done.
Not that much.
Is this kind of a dream come
Wolverine
true?
Gambit.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
You've read that.
Not,
You're shaking your head.
No.
I think I'm with Tim Sale on this one.
It was
Issue number
a, it was,
3.
it was
That's
a
what-
money grab.
Before.
okay.
We made a lot of money.
There you go.
Well, that's always good.
Success.
Most popular.
Yep.
Of course.
X-Men.
Absolutely.
Jeff had worked a lot in the X office.
Uh-huh.
It was the first time he wrote something that I said, I had an idea and said, this is the only thing that's going to be important to me that we eventually get this in, was I was sick and tired of, and both Gambit and Wolverine are perfect examples of this character, where they build up a romance in their head
Yeah.
with a capital R, and therefore put women on pedestals.
Right.
And if they break your heart at all, you're suddenly Heathcliff on the moor,
Yeah.
popping your claws in frustration.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I wanted them to have some kind of recognition of that fact.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he just couldn't figure out how to put it in.
Yeah.
So it was just a lot of running around with characters I had no connection with.
Sure.
And
So, but the other Marvel stuff, was that kind of a dream come true? Like that
Those
you
were
finally
great.
got? Yeah.
Yeah.
and I think he wrote the hell out of
Oh, yeah.
every one of those.
You can.
The hardest one for him was Spider-Man because
Yeah.
we were really following the Romita books
Oh, absolutely.
pretty strictly.
Yeah.
But both Daredevil and the Hulk are some of my very favorite works.
They're incredible.
Absolutely.
Very favorite writings of Jeff.
I feel like the passion you guys have for those really come through on
Yeah.
the page.
Well, I had no idea the only thing I knew he wanted to do with Daredevil was to have a joyous, not a tragic, not a
Right.
right,
Like every other
or
Daredevil,
a
basically.
brooding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of course that's what he is now. But
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
once Miller gets a hold of somebody, you don't.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So he wanted to have something like that, but the whole romantic comedy sort of aspect of it
Yeah.
was a surprise to me.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And the Purple
Tons
Man
of fun.
stuff, you know, when
I didn't like the Purple
you
Man.
didn't like that stuff when Karen goes off. I mean, just
No, the villains really didn't work out that
Okay.
well to me. I remember really loving. I never liked the Purple Man, but I really loving the Owl when I was younger.
Yeah.
But there's not much to him.
sure.
He's a cool design for sure.
yeah,
Like,
he is
the,
cool
the look
design.
of him is amazing.
It was fun to draw, but
Yeah.
not. There's no backstory that really
Right.
draws you in.
Yeah.
But all the stuff with Karen and Foggy, the pool table,
Yeah.
telling blind jokes,
Yeah.
Helen Keller jokes.
Right. Yeah.
I remember he was shocked we got away with it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Well, it's pretty.
Sure.
It seems like a running theme in your guys' work about being shocked about getting away with stuff.
all these things. Is that?
Well, I had no idea the Now I'm Wet 2 was coming. And then-
Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah, I know. And as far as I know, nobody's ever even thought of it.
Sure.
Yeah, well, of course, he's wet. He was in the rain, and now you're wet too.
Yeah. Hence
about
the
it. Just-
double entendre. Yeah.
Shouldn't take you that long.
Yeah, exactly. This is an unrelated question, but now that they've rebooted Archie with Mark Waid and Fiona Staples, have you been able to pick up any of that? And have you read through any
I
of
know.
that?
I don't think I'd enjoy it very much.
Really?
No?
Yeah.
We've enjoyed it immensely.
Have
just,
you?
Just have been blown away by the retelling of. I mean, not retelling in a way that they're hard resetting, but just the emotional gravitas they're bringing.
Well,
to
I don't.
the
I don't mean it
character.
as anything about what Fiona and Mark are doing.
Sure.
Right.
They're both hugely talented people.
Absolutely.
I just mean I don't think I would fit into
Okay.
that.
Sure. Cool.
Absolutely.
I just wanted.
Depending on how far they go afield.
Sure.
But I think it's a kind of. It's not Disney, but it's a licensed.
Sure.
They want to keep it within certain parameters, even
Sure.
though they rebooted it.
Yeah.
It's still got to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing, and I don't think I would fit in
Okay.
that well.
No,
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
You just brought up Archie at the beginning, and I was
Right, sure.
Yeah, we've talked about Archie quite a bit on the show.
Unfortunately.
So
There's varying opinions, as you can tell.
Something kind of fun we do with all of our guests is we have a little segment we call Weird Questions with Donovan Eilert, where Donovan will ask you some kind of strange, out of left field questions if you'd like to.
Okay.
All
right.
Donovan, go for
If
it.
you opened up a restaurant that had to serve a walrus burger, what would you name the burger?
It had to serve a walrus
A
burger?
walrus burger. It was a
Burger made out of walrus meat?
Yeah, that's right.
I'd call it a walrus burger.
All right, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Because who else is going to have a walrus burger?
I'd hate to serve somebody walrus meat.
Yeah.
We don't want to
And
bury
they
the
didn't know
lead
it
on
was
that
walrus
either.
meat?
Sure.
It's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
I understand that. That's definitely true.
You got it.
I think that was
That was it?
That was the one. I mean,
Well, that was the
just
weird
really
que-
needed to know.
That was specifically aimed at Tim Sale.
No, it wasn't aimed at. Yeah, that was just. Thank you for that.
Well, Tim, we
welcome.
Appreciate
we thank you so much for talking with us today. And Captain America White is available now.
First issue's available now. Today's the 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The next one is out in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then I think it's monthly after that.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, they're really fast-tracking this. We just did a cover for the solicitation of the hardcover collection.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
So
So that's going to be coming out pretty quickly on the
I
heels
was
of
like,
the.
Jesus, man. First issue was out. and
Yeah.
now we're,
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
Merchandising.
I think they want to
Exactly.
get it all out by the end of the year if
Yeah.
they can.
Dang.
Oh, cool. And then, do you have any kind of web presence or anything you want to tell? You on
Any what?
Any kind of web presence, Twitter or anything like that?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Right.
All right. Cool.
So
Yeah,
you
no,
can
I'm
find
not-
Tim
I
Sale's work on every comic book store ever.
Yeah.
Your stuff is out
You
there.
can find the Long Halloween
Everywhere.
pretty much wherever.
Yeah.
And there's a there's a hardcover black and white out of that now, right?
There is, and in Europe they have a hardcover Dark Victory,
Oh yeah.
which looks so much better than the.
Really?
Yeah, well, there's a lot more black. And,
Sure. Yeah.
it really holds up in black and white.
Yeah.
Really, really well.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're ever going to do it here. I don't know
Oh,
why
that's
they
disappointing.
did it just in Europe. It's the
Yeah.
same format, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
I always thought
Okay,
it was
everyone,
cool.
Amazon.uk. You know where to go.
There you go.
Sure, you can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very much, Tim Sale, for talking to us. It's been a real
pleasure.
honor.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Yep. Okay, so that was our interview with Tim Sale.
He's so cool.
He's really cool.
He's really cool.
And
Past us are so insightful.
of course, we want to thank him and Rose City Comic Con
Of
for
course,
setting that up.
yes.
That was super awesome of them. We could not have asked for a better guest, really. Like that was, I mean, the fact that we were just giving him basically.
Yeah, I mean,
Like a present.
Yeah,
there
I mean,
are people that we've definitely, we've loved everyone we've interviewed, but we said like, man, if we could get a couple of these people, and a couple of those include Tim Sale. So
absolutely, yeah.
That's-
We didn't think we would be able to land an interview with him, and
Here we are.
Once again, thank you to Rose City Comic Con for setting that up for us and giving us the space and time to do that.
Yeah.
We had a great time talking to him.
Yes.
And of course, thank Tim Sale for agreeing to do that. Mm-hmm. And you can, as we said on there, but I'll say it again, you can pick up Captain America White wherever comics are sold, and you should.
yeah.
The second issue should be out shortly, yes?
Yeah, he said
in
that
a week or two? Yeah.
Yep, he just said that on there. So, not to repeat what you already know. So
It was yesterday, John. It's all a blur.
we'll now end our show the same way we always do with our recommendation segment, where we recommend comics we think you should be reading. Grigodi, you got?
Sure, I got a pretty decent recommendation. I've talked about my love of the Dresden Files on the show before.
Have you?
I think at least once, especially on the whatchamacallit episode, the licensed comics episode. Their Dresden Files is an urban fantasy series written by an author named Jim Butcher. He's one of my favorite authors. And his novel, the Dresden Files novels specifically, have been slowly but surely have started being adapted into graphic novels.
Yeah.
Starting with the first one, Full Moon, or first one is Stormfront. The second one is Full Moon. And what's really interesting about those is in between each of the adaptations of the books, there's usually an intermediary, like short story that he writes himself and is just in comic book form.
Very cool.
And just recently, Dynamite Comics has released an omnibus of the first two books.
Excellent.
So Stormfront and Full Moon is now in an omnibus that
Very
also
cool.
includes a short story called Welcome to the Jungle.
Nice.
So if
Forward by Axford Rose.
I don't know if he'd necessarily appreciate Dresden Files all that much. Way less hookers and blow than he's used to.
Well,
He's going to be disappointed all over the place.
Is there a little bit of it?
I mean, it is urban fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, he'll latch onto the urban part of it.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, but yeah, so if you're into urban fantasy, it's got a very noirish tone to it. Harry Dresden is our main character. He's kind of like a street level detective solving like magical and supernatural crimes.
Cool.
And the books are really, really good. The first one, Stormfront, he has to solve the mystery of a mobster gets his heart exploded out from the inside. So he has to put together these like clues of like what black magic could kill a man by making his chest explode. All the while, the mob is kind of like harassing him, is like, who killed our guy? Mm-hmm. So it's a really good murder mystery, that first book, and the series only gets better from there. So if you want to check out the omnibus of the first 2 books, do that now.
Cool. Donovan, what do you got?
I read The Black Beetle by Francisco Francavilla, and it is amazing.
It's a Dark Horse book?
It's a Dark Horse book. It is written and drawn by him. He is one of my favorite artists at this point. He's becoming one of my favorite artists, doing Afterlife with Archie. Mm-hmm. He did some stuff for Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, this guy has done a lot
Super talented dude.
Really great stuff, and now he's writing this, and it's awesome. It's like early 40s man about town superhero who puts on beetle like goggles and goes out and like with a gun fights crime. I mean, he's definitely not
Batman.
He's not Batman, but he's got gadgets. One of the first scenes,
more like the Shadow or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that kind of pulp hero sort of way.
Well, kind of like early Blue Beetle a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no,
a lot of the early actually DC characters.
There's a lot of crossover with that, and he like one of the first scenes you see Nazis, which is awesome, flying over.
Always.
They have helicopter jetpacks, basically,
yes.
right?
Nice.
And after he confronts them and dispatches with them, he gets that. So he's got a helicopter jetpack kind of thing. Nice. And it's not really a damsel in distress, but this woman that comes in and gets involved with him. And then there's this guy showing up looking like a maze called Labyrinto. And,
nice. That's an awesome name.
Oh, it's so cool. And the design on him especially is really awesome. And he's trying to figure out, and there's all these ties with these mob members that keep getting knocked off. Like a mob front gets exploded as he's going to try to rescue somebody, and then he's trying. Anyways, it is super fun.
That sounds great.
It's dark and gritty in aesthetic more than, I mean, it's not that it's like overwhelmingly dark, like the Temple of Doom is like demons on a cult and like it's like, it's just the visuals of it are kind of a darker, grittier tone.
Cool. But noir in the most like actual sense of just like the color palette.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's like I said, it's really fun. Also a lot of mystery element in there. It was a really fun read.
Cool.
So I recommend it to anybody who likes.
And then what was that called one more time?
The Black Beetle by Francisco Francavilla.
John, what do you got?
I have a Dark Horse book as well. It's called Grindhouse. There's 2 separate volumes of it that each have their own titles, actually. There's Grindhouse, Doors Open at Midnight was the first 8-issue run of it. And then they've done a second 8-issue run now, which is called Grindhouse Drive In, Bleed Out.
I think you've told me about this before.
I probably have. I love these comics. People... I don't know if I mentioned on the show, but I have a great love of particularly 70s exploitation movies. Blaxploitation, rape revenge, vigilante movies, slasher movies from that era and stuff, home invasion thrillers, things like that. And this comic aims to capture those in this way, where it's written by Alex DeCampi and then has a variety of artists for each one. But she takes these comics. She does these stories. They're 2-issue stories, so you get the 2 halves of the story. 4 of them across the 8 issues.
Okay, so each trade consists of like 4 different stories.
And each one is basically a Grindhouse movie that never existed.
Awesome.
But they're so awesome. You start with Bee Vixens from Mars, which is I don't need to explain what that is.
They're insectile women from Mars.
Then Bride of Blood, which is a rape revenge story set in medieval times.
Wow.
Let's see, the Feast of the Devil's Demon Doll, I think is one.
What the?
Yeah.
That's a title.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. I'm trying to remember what some of the other ones are. I haven't read Drive-In Bleed Out yet, but I know that the first one is like a Christmas theme slasher thing called Sleigh Ride, SLAY. And then I know there's a sexploitation space one in there, and I know there's like a blaxploitation like female James Bond kind of thing in there as well. And they're super fun. They know what they're doing. They're purposely being crazy and shocking, and they did a sequel to Bee Vixens from Mars actually in that called Blood Lagoon, which follows the main character from Bee Vixens in another scenario. But yeah, it's a super super fun comic. It's beautifully drawn by the various artists. It's the most explicit of content, though. Once again, I mean, they are playing on exploitation tropes, so there is plenty of gore and nudity and foul language that you would expect from those movies.
Right.
And but it's, like I said, so much fun and done with clearly the joy of it. And reading Alex DeCampi's letters in the back and notes on the in the comic, she has an immense love for this stuff, like I do, and you can see it. It comes across in everything she's doing.
We've said this probably dozens of times on the show, but when an author has that passion for a thing, it really shows on the page, and those are the works we're really drawn to.
Right, and so yeah, it's one of the most fun comics, and I always look forward to there being more of it, and I hope Dark Horse keeps publishing it because it's so much fun.
Awesome.
Cool. So those are our recommendations for this week. I think that's going to do it for this episode of Panel on Panels. Of course, we want to thank everyone one more time from Rose City Comic Con. We had a great time.
Thank you guys so much.
You put on a hell of a con. We'll be back next year.
Absolutely.
God's willing.
Yeah, exactly. And we hope to see more listeners. You guys can check out the con if you didn't this year, get the chance. Or find local cons if you're not in the Portland area where you are.
There are plenty of cons in smaller towns if you're not necessarily in some kind of metropolis. Not that Portland is a metropolis.
It kind of is.
But
it's a major city.
Yeah, but there are plenty of smaller cons all over the country that people of like minds and likes, with stuff that people enjoy communally, can get together and do stuff, even if it's as small as like a swap meet and stuff.
Right.
There's plenty of ways to get out and meet people that are into the same things you are.
Absolutely.
The other thing that's cool is talk to your comic book shops about if they're hosting any guests coming through and for signings and stuff like that. We've met some really awesome people at events like that. So.
Absolutely. Cool. So for Panel on Panels, I've been John Campbell.
I am currently Mike Gergoni.
And I will always be Donovan Eilert.
Keep reading comics, everyone.